So you don't need to watch this video. I just figured I would show you roughly like the process of modeling or sculpting. So I just sculpt up to like level 3 here, and I'm just gonna make some adjustments and such. So I just got the regular sculpt here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and add. I'm just holding shift after each one, and I'm just gonna add a little bit here and hold shift after just to make sure it's good. Smooth that out. Let's see what this looks like. So you can see it's a little bit fat this way, so I'm going to try and squeeze that in. I'm just going to hold shift and brushing that. You see the neck looks a little strange there, so I'm just going to see if I can smooth that out. And then we're going to add a little bit. Again, I'm just using regular old sculpt. Just add a little bit of girth there. And we're going to put a little bit more on the bottom here, because I'm just picturing it being like a typical kind of lizard looking thing. This has got a lot of volume, so I'm just going to hold shift and just kind of smooth that out, and that will make it loose. But see how it's kind of flat in a weird way in the one direction? So I'm just going to kind of take this and just sculpt in this direction, then smooth that after. Hopefully that makes it a little bit more round. That looks a little bit more round. That's a little bit better. I would like this shoulder to maybe come up this way just a little bit more, so it's like that. That looks a little bit better. Come on, stop clicking. There we go. All right. Let's look at the back leg here. So this could probably go like that a little bit. Looks a little bit too far out to the side. It's a bit lizard-like, and I wanted it more dinosaur-like. Dinosaurs typically have their legs more under their body, while lizards are coming out the side. Or reptiles, I should say, coming out the side. It's one of the things that separate the two. So I'm just holding shift and smoothing that out. Holding shift, smoothing that out. Trying to just get this to fill in here and spreading out the love. So let's zoom in here. Just gonna try and get this to bleed in a little bit better to under his body. And then we're just gonna shift a little bit to try and get it to blend. Now you can see it's definitely getting torn there. The geometry there was not very good. So that's a little unfortunate. So that's one of those things. This can definitely get pushed this way a little bit. There we go. I was gonna smooth that out. All right, it's not my greatest sculpt, that's definitely for sure. Like that. Okay, let's bring that in just a little. See that right there? It's like affecting this more than that. So I'm just gonna have to bring that down a little. I'm looking to bring you in. There we go. There, looks a little bit better. Let's zoom out a little bit. I have to make this a little bit bigger. I just want to try and fill this out a little bit better, just so it blends in a little bit. That looks better. He needs more of a rib cage underneath, so we're just going to go ahead and I'm just going to add some more volume underneath here. All right, kind of a thing. Just smooth that out a little bit. Let's get that a little bit farther down. That's a little better. All right, and let's make this a little bit pointier. Smooth out this side of it. Smooth out that side of it. Brush a little bit more there. Just trying to make his elbows a bit stronger. Okay, his feet definitely need a whole lot of work, so we're gonna zoom in here. So I'm gonna kind of try and add a little bit of volume here, and just smooth that back out. Smooth this, smooth that. It's easiest just to get rid of volume by just smoothing, because especially if you're trying to make something round like I am. So I'm just going to try and smooth out to get the volume. Now, if you look in here, you can see obviously that's not the greatest. So let's see if we can just see how it's actually pulling it to the side. That's what I was talking about, where it's better to use bulge. Also, let me just double check, make sure. Yeah, I also want to make sure I do front faces only. And now you'll see how it's not doing that. So I'm just trying to make this a little bit more, have a little bit more strength to it. So we're just gonna go like so. And we'll smooth it a little bit. It's a little bit better. This I'm gonna add some volume as well. Again, just using that bulge, because these are definitely they're tall, but not they're not they're thin. So I just want to add a little bit of volume by brushing on either side of this, in the hopes that that will thicken it up a bit. See, a little bit too much. That's okay. And same thing here. Just these really thin areas need a lot of loving. All right, like that. And again, I'm just going to smooth. Pretty much after every brush stroke, you just want to do a smooth. That's a little bit better. It still doesn't look great, but it's better than what it was. I'll do more of that foot afterwards. I just want to make sure it wasn't too bad. So you can see, just trying to thicken these up to make them a little bit better to start with. Generally speaking, when you're working, you should work on all areas all the time, because everything is in relationship to everything else. So you might make and also you might make like an awesome arm, but it doesn't look good because the rest of the body's bad. So there's no sense in doing it unless you kind of make sure everything is getting your attention. Especially since we're working in 3D, you never know, especially if you're doing like game design or something. Oops, you never know what the people are going to see. All right, so that looks acceptable. It's not great; it needs more loving, but that's something. So yeah, first thing you want to do is just make sure that you are just getting an overall general shape that kind of has roughly what you're looking for. It's also a good idea to use reference if possible. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to kind of further in a little bit more detail. So I'm actually going to, did I already subdivide to 4? Oops, there we go. I already have 4. Okay, so I'm going to go to 4, maybe 4 or 5, depending. I'm going to see what this looks like. So I'm just going to go into his face, because his face I didn't really do too much with. Okay, so, all right. So I don't know exactly what the geometry looks like. So I could either do the overlay that you do over here, and we do the wireframe, but it might be a little bit easier to see if I do cavity, and that's not helping that much. So we're going to do the overlay. I was hoping that would work. There we go. And we'll just take the opacity of it down so it's not so. And what does this one do? I'm not sure what that does. Okay, so we'll just take the opacity down so we can see it, but it's not overall. Because I got to know where that eye is and where the mouth is in order to sculpt that more correctly. So I'm going to go back to my regular old draw here. And we're just going to kind of brush roughly where that goes. I'm going to hold Control to go inwards. Let's do F to make this a little bit bigger and get that cheekbone kind of going. Okay. And then we need that jaw, like a strong jaw line to come across. All right, like so. And then we'll just hold Shift to kind of smooth that out. Try to smooth that out a little bit. All right, and he should have a stronger kind of line here. We're always looking for lines and edges that will give the overall look a little more strength. So, and then we'll just kind of give them a little bit of little wrinkling action there. Let's see. Oop, there we go. All right, and let's give a little bit more of like a cranium on the end here. I think would look a little bit better. So it looks a little bit more like he has a skull. Okay, so that's a little bit better. And let me just see a little bit more. Okay, so let's make this a little bit smaller. And then like so that I can get more of an eye here. All right, and let's I'm gonna hold Control to cut in here, like so. Sorry about all the banging. That's my children. I told them to be quiet, and they don't really care. So just trying to get generally the form here so that I can see what I'm dealing with. I need stronger teeth here, or a mouth line. So what I'm actually going to do is use that crease tool. So I'll hit Shift C, so you can, and I'm just going to try and crease this roughly where that mouth line is supposed to be. And I think it would look a little bit better. Let's do this. I'm just going to start from here. Okay. I'm just going to draw that around, and I'm going to try and go, usually there's like this weird kind of line there, like that. So we're going to go with that. Okay, so that crease it also pinches, which is helpful. So sometimes you can get what you want by using that. Some I almost use it like a marker in a way to be like, this is where the lines are, and then so it'll go like that. But it's a good way of kind of helping to define some of the details and such. All right, so that's a little bit better. So I'm not going to go too nuts with it because the idea, and I don't need this anymore. Let's turn this one back off. The idea is just to get a rough, work it all evenly. So now I'm just going to go over here, and I'm still on crease here, but I'll just kind of stick with crease for a little bit. So let's see if we can kind of, just so we can kind of help define. All right, so he needs some muscly action, so we're just going to basically try to define some muscles. Okay, like so. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. All right, and we're gonna bring this forearm around, and then you can see this is getting a little bit. So let's see if we can kind of pull that in a little bit. It's a little better. All right, and then we'll go like this. That's a little better as well. All right, and oops, keep hitting Alt. Okay, and then let's just give the fingers like a little bit more of a ridge here, kind of more defining where they start. And then we'll just do kind of some rough toe. But I'm almost using this as a way to mark it. These are going to need a lot more work. But this is like kind of the start of where things are going to be, if that makes sense. So you can see I'm not getting too carried away with being overly detailed with any of it. I'm merely trying to just get an idea of where things are going to be. So that'll allow me a little bit more flexibility later on, and when I need to actually start, sculpting the more high res details. Right now, my main concern is just going to be to try and get this to have the elements that I'm looking for. So that's really all I'm doing here. All right, so let's see. And then, so I would highly suggest, make sure you look at anatomy. So I've done quite a bit of anatomy, although honestly, this is not very accurate, but it's good enough. No one needs to know. So I'm just gonna put that in. Okay, so let's just kind of cut this across. All right, and so cut that across. Yeah, yoink, and yoink, 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 yoink. I would say too, try not to make things too perfect. Nothing is perfect, and the more perfect you make something, which is very, it'll look more 3D. A lot of times, what we're trying to do is just make things look kind of incorrect. That actually looks kind of bad. Shouldn't have done that. All right. That's usually what we're trying to do is imitate life, and life isn't perfect. Okay, so I sort of have made a general, there we go, a general kind of layout of the guy here. You can see he definitely is not perfect, and he needs a lot more love. So what I could do from here is I probably would just further, use bulge and those sort of things to fill it out a little bit more. But particularly his face, I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on his face just because you can see it doesn't have enough resolution. So we're just going to subdivide that. All right, we'll do 5. Let's see if we can probably do 6. Okay. I don't know if does it tell you how much geometry? I'm sure there's a way to know, but I don't know offhand. Let me see. Would it be in here? Tool item. I don't see anything there. All right. So anyway, so from there now I can start to do more details. Again, I just mostly use that crease to kind of do it because it'll give me what I need. But we can use the draw as well. So and I'm just going to add a little bit more here, and then just smooth, right? And then this needs to be kind of smooth. I'm going to use the flatten to try and flatten this out a little bit more because it's a little bit too bulgy for my likings. All right, that looks fine. And let's flatten this a little bit, which will give us a nicer, kind of stronger look. The flatten works really good if you're like looking for a cartoony look, because what I'll do is that you can kind of almost create like edges with it. So if you wanted something that's a little bit more, geometric in essence, you can get that with that tool. So, all right, let's zoom into the nostril here. Okay. And let's see if we can build up a little bit more. So you can see, I actually didn't make geometry for the nostril, so that was sort of a mistake, if you will. Let's crease this. So there's not enough geometry to make a proper, well, it doesn't have the right topology, I should say, to make the a proper nostril, which is a little disappointing, but what are you going to do? And then let's make this a little bit smaller. So from here, I can, do the more detailed work to try and give this, more of the look that I'm looking for. So let's go like that. Get this eye more correct. Right. So let's smooth this out, and I'm actually going to use bulge in there. So I don't remember what hockey is for bulge, and let's make this a slight bit bigger. And I'm going to try and push out like an eye. Right, like so. That looks acceptable. All right, and where is pinch? I never use pinch. Is this it? Multi-plane scrape. There's crease. Thumb. Well, let's draw sharp. That'll give me roughly what I need. Let's make this a touch bit smaller. And hang on a second. Oh, this is cutting in. I'm going to hold control so it does the opposite. But I was just trying to, not enough geometry to really support that. So we're not going to do that. Never mind that one. So you can kind of see. Let's make this a touch smaller. Just trying to get some detail work. Let's try doing a different matte cap too, that maybe I can see a little bit better. Some of the shadows. So with this, I'm just gonna do some scratches and stuff like that. That would probably exist. You gotta be careful about getting, too carried away with details. Well, see, I got kind of carried away with the eyeball there. But you would just kind of give that the same kind of go through with everything. And then in the end, just add like textural elements to kind of break it up and make it look more, like it's, like it's alive, like it has history, like things have, wrinkles and scratches and things like that show that it's been alive and that there's something else there, that it's not just this newborn thing. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a rough idea. So I would just go from there and just, be adding more and more until it gets, layered and looks nice. Okay, so good luck.